Welcome to our episode of Barkman Saturdays. And this week I decided to take a look at Gulliver's Travels, which I got in this collection of big box of family movies, which came with 10 films, obviously. We've been working through them sort of off and on. And this time we're taking a look at Gulliver's Travels, a 1939 animated film by a studio that definitely knew they're going to have to compete with Disney's Snow White from like the year before when this came out. So this is a musical number. Though I have to admit, the most important aspect about this film is one of the first to use rotoscoping techniques. So its history of animation, was probably higher than my opinion of this film, to be honest. I mean, this film's very slow paced. I mean, it takes almost 40 minutes for us to get to a point where Gulliver actually says any lines. Before that point, we have Gulliver, washing ashore on beach, so we get to watch his boat get sunk, by the waves. Which is fine. It's probably how the book would start, I assume. So it makes sense to start there, but then we cut over to Gabby, who's out, on patrol singing a song about all's well and stuff like that. Obviously meant to be a nod to the song by the dwarves from Snow White. So, yeah, that song goes on for way too long. And it's obvious the character doesn't like the song, because he spends time, adding in lyrics complaining about how much the song sucks. Great. It's nice that you acknowledge the song's bad, but that doesn't make me like it more. I'm just saying. So yeah, we have this 3 minute song that goes on. It just feels like it way longer than that. As he makes his way to the beach and eventually realizes that there's a giant on the beach and runs all the way back to tell everyone else about it in a panic. As a light blur. Just running along, because apparently being small like that makes him super fast or something, just like, boom, like he's the Flash. Like, literally, as he passes, stuff gets picked up and thrown, because of the speed. Like, he's creating a air pressure wave in front of him that's just pushing everything aside. Ugh. But when he gets back and tries to tell everyone about like the king and stuff, the guard's like, "Dude, the king's busy. He's meeting with somebody important, and they have to keep trying to drag him out of the room and stuff and keep him out." Just like, okay, we've stopped the whole giant plot line, then move on to a marriage plot line between the two kings and their kids, um, which quickly turns sour because the kings can't agree on the song to play during the wedding. Yes, they're going to have a war over a song. Like, oh my gosh. Like, this is so dumb. Like, War of the Bucket dumb. And that wasn't even a war over a bucket. Those two cities had beef well before the whole bucket thing was bucket thing. And besides, the war wasn't over that bucket. The winner just took the bucket, and they probably display it to this day, as far as I'm aware. And we'll talk about the history of how they stole the bucket. A bit weird, but I suppose it is a not, history and something you can maybe draw in the tourists with, because who wouldn't want to hear about that time some cities fought over a bucket, if you want to dumb it down and misrepresent it for a YouTube video. But yeah, eventually, after the war declaration is declared and one king leaves and all that fun jazz. Finally, our Gabby gets through and tells the king there's a giant on the beach, and he's like, "Bring this giant to me." Eventually, after paying attention long enough to realize he's talking about a giant. So of course, all the little people go to put the giant, on a sled with wheels and wheel him back towards their kingdom, which is a very long extended sequence itself, which takes way too long in my opinion. It's almost like 20 minutes watching them, you know, realize they're standing on the giant after getting there and tying the giant up to bring Gulliver, back to the kingdom. It's long. It feels unnecessarily long. Like, I know they're trying to get some visual gags in there while they're doing it, but it just isn't that interesting in my opinion. It just adds the whole slowness of the film. Like, if you trim down that whole sequence and cut out the whole joke bit where they didn't realize they were standing on the giant, because, like, how'd they even approach Gulliver without seeing him, considering we know from when Gabby was leaving, he had to go over several hills? I mean, they would have seen the giant in the distance well before they got on top of him. They realized, oh, we're standing on top of the giant. Not to mention where they didn't notice the buttons and stuff. And I love how in that sequence his shirt suddenly comes like the white or whatever, like the color of the sand of the beach. Yet when he stands up in later sequences, that shirt's blue. So is that an animation error or what? It's just sort of a bizarre, unnecessarily long sequence in my opinion. It just adds to why I eventually sort of just tuned out and went to go lay down for a bit because I'm just like I cannot get interested in this film. So yeah, if I left about like the 40-minute mark and then came back like maybe 20 minutes later to watch the last 16 minutes or so of the film, yeah, it's not a super long film, but it's just so boring for the most part that I just couldn't stay interested. It's just like, please, movie, like, get to the point. Throw me at a bone, with something interesting to look at or pay attention to. And I'm not alone in feeling that because they really wanted to push, I guess, the love plot line, but they don't really develop our lovey-dovey couple that much, so it's hard to really even care about them and how their romance is being ruined by two kings that can't agree on a song. And Gulliver's solution to this whole problem is like, well, just combine the two songs, and play them both at the same time. It's like your music could sound like this, instead. And that literally is the solution they go with. And then the movie ends with Gulliver, traveling off in the distance on a new boat they helped him build. Like, the end. So, yeah. I guess this movie did cause a couple spin-off cartoons about, like, Gabby, the town crier, and a trio of spies and their pet bird. But honestly, I don't like Gabby. I think one of the main problems this movie has is that it spends way too much time focusing on him when he really shouldn't be the main character. Either you need to focus on Gulliver, or you need to focus on our romantic couple. That way you actually get the audience invested, and when the prince, prepares to die, it actually is a more dramatic moment than he's like, oh, some guy I barely know kicked the bucket. Big whoop. I'm not invested enough in him to really care. And I know, in my head, there's people dropping dead every day by the thousands. So, what's one more, It's just like, it's sort of the thing that bugs me with some RPG Maker games is they'll include a character dying for dramatic, effect, but they haven't got the audience invested in that character, so when they die, it doesn't mean anything to them. Same problem here. You can't go that route, if you can't get people interested in the character. So, yeah, this is not a good movie in my opinion. I mean, maybe it's historically important, but this definitely isn't something I would advise watching, though it is available for free apparently, so you don't have to really pay anything to see it if you really want to watch it. Albeit some versions apparently are based on a butchered ed for the UK market, so they trim out quite a few minutes worth of content, which might actually be could be in some ways an improvement, in some ways maybe make the film worse, depending on where they made the cuts. Till next time, then. See ya.
Look what you've done. Now go ahead, break your nutshell heads over your songs. But did you have to break Glory's heart, King Little? Because you're thoughtless and selfish? And you, Bombo, oh mighty warrior, what have you won? You were too stubborn to think, too busy quarreling to lend ear to the harmony that might have been yours. But now, in your sorrow and despair, perhaps you'll listen to your songs as they might be sung. Remember that
behalf of the peoples of Blefuscu and Lilliput, with eternal gratitude and love in our hearts, we christen thee Gulliver.